So, for everyone who is tuning in on YouTube, this is part 6 of our off-season discussion. We're going to be talking about Shane Pinto re-signing with the Ottawa Senators. It's only a 2-year bridge deal, but it'll pay Shane Pinto $3.75 million over the next 2 years. And yeah, let's talk about that. I'll throw it over to Matt first to get a word in on what he thinks about the return of Shane Pinto.
Return of Pinner himself. Well, first of all, now that he signed for 2 years as opposed to the one he signed after the whole gambling controversy, it's great to have him for 2 more years. He can now get a real jersey number, hopefully 12. And he brings a lot to this team. I was actually quite down about the Sens stuff recently because we hadn't signed Shane Pinto. And it really was starting to feel like last year because it was feeling like he was an afterthought yet again. And that is not something I want our third and potentially second line center thinking about himself. And as I said in the previous segment, Matthew Joseph made 2.95 million. So I assumed they moved him so they could sign Shane Pinto to like a $4 to $5 million contract. And then it came in at like 3 point some odd. I was a little confused about that one. I'm not going to lie. But it's a good deal. It's a bridge deal that Pinto can bet on himself for. And I think you'll probably find that his next contract is roughly about 5, maybe 6, considering the point totals he gets. But he brings a lot to this team, and I think a lot of teams wanted the opportunity at Shane Pinto. Because holy cow, how many friggin' trade rumors were created about this kid. I'm super glad we have him. And yeah, it's great to finally have that bit of business done, and now the rest of the offseason can kind of shape up how it needs to.
Yep, and Ottawa still needs to fill a couple of NHL forward slots, so it'll be interesting to see what they do on that front. But Bennett, what did you think about Shane Pinto on a short-term bridge deal?
Yeah, I don't mind a bridge deal at all. I think that this team has been burned in the past by locking up guys that weren't their, guaranteed star players of the future to long-term deals. Obviously, I'm talking about Josh Norris. So I really don't mind
I
a
thought you were
bridge
talking
deal
about
here.
Colin White.
Well, I mean,
Oh, damn. That's a
Colin
deep
White is
cut.
also a very good pick there. But no, Shane Pinto's he's been a very effective player in all of the games he plays in Ottawa, but it's been a small sample size. And so I think that, it'd be inherently risky to try and get a super long deal here when he's only played parts of seasons and never really played a full season for the Sens. I think this gives him that opportunity, and I think he's earned that opportunity with his two-way play, with his goal scoring as a rookie, and with his ability to kind of, you know, really bolster the team's depth down the middle. I think when or if Josh Norris plays, Pinto becomes your third line center, and he's a very good third line center. That gives you the flexibility of moving someone like Ridley Greig onto the wing on your third or second line, where he's proven that he can be effective before. And in the much more likely event that Josh Norris doesn't play, then Shane Pinto is your sort of slightly under average second line center, but it allows Greg to thrive as a 3C. And I think that maybe that gives your lineup a decent balance. So I think this deal needed to be done. He's an important piece of this current Sens roster, and I'm excited to see what he can do in a full season here in Ottawa. Because I think that that'll really go a long way to helping us understand what kind of player he could be.
I agree. I think sample size is small, and also he joined the season halfway through. And so, he might have had a lot more energy than some of the other guys who have already suffered through a brutal first half of the season, coach firing, this, that, and the other thing. So coming in with a fresh lease on life, if you will, especially after a long suspension. That could have given him a boost, really wanting to prove himself. I hope he keeps it up. Like you said, if Josh Norris can't go, I think Pinto can step into that second line role. If he doesn't, if he plays the season out as a 3C, I think him on a line with, say, Greg and Amadio would be a really solid defensive line that could chip in offensively, and I'd be pumped for that. But yeah, we'll just have to see where it takes them. And on that note, so far, I'll say let's keep this to maybe a minute or two or less. But up until this point of the offseason, do you think the Ottawa Senators for the 24-25 season will be better or worse than they were in the 23-24 season? And I'll kick it off with Matt.
We're supposed to keep this to 1 to 2 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think as soon as the Senators traded for Linus Ullmark, they became a much better team than they were last year. He provides us the opportunity to be a team that doesn't have to worry about the first or second shot going in. He provides us the opportunity to, like, when we're tired, he can make a meaningful stop, and the world isn't going to end because it ended up in the back of the net. The Sens, as of what is it, Tuesday, July 2nd, are a much better team than they were at the end of last season. They are going to have the opportunity at the start of this season to have a healthy Josh Norris. That came down the pipe today, that Staios is basically saying he'll be ready for camp. We balanced our blue line better with Nick Jensen, and our roster as a whole is starting to take shape. But as it stands right now, like, this team is better than it was last year, and that last year's team underperformed. So let's see what a better team can do and not underperform.
Totally fair. Bennett, what are your thoughts so far?
You said 1 to 2 minutes. I'll do you one better. 1 to 2 words. Korpisalo gone. This team is already better.
Whoa, that was more than 2 words. Whoa, you go back.
No, I'll echo everything that Nate said. The balance of this team looks better. I think that if everyone starts the season healthy and not suspended for mysterious gambling allegations that were never actually explained, then that's a positive thing. We have a legitimate NHL goaltender. That's a positive thing. We have a new coach, and I think that we've had a full year of new ownership. I think that Ann Lauer has really set a foot wrong. He's been generous with his time and with his donations to causes that are important to the Senators. He has empowered a GM who seems to be making, for the most part, relatively smart moves. Nothing splashy, just, bread and butter kind of business moves to make this team a little bit better each time, instead of taking huge swings that blow up in your face. So I think that things are trending in a positive direction. I'm very, very interested to see what Travis Green can do with this young core. I think that if they're receptive to his methods, and if he is able to provide them a bit of structure that was lacking under previous regimes, this team could take a big step next year. And I don't want to say playoffs, because I still think we're probably not quite there yet. But I think that things are definitely trending in the right direction.
Love it. I'll say for me, I think it's hard to look at last year's roster and say it's that this year's predicted roster is going to be worse. While I know I was a little bit on the fence with David Perron, I do think he'll bring an edge to the game that the Sens need. He brings, like you guys said, a Stanley Cup, over 100 playoff games experience. Then you bring in Amadio, also won a cup, also has good playoff experience. Both solid veterans. I know Amadio is only 27, but he's played enough games. He's a veteran in the league now. I think right away that makes your middle six much better, adding those two players. And then on top of that, getting Ullmark is just like the biggest cherry you could find on top of that sundae. And when you get a guy like him in net, it's hard not to feel confident. And obviously, I don't want to jump the gun because Sens fans, we've been doing that the last couple of years and it hasn't panned out. But it does feel like the Sens are set to at least turn the corner this season. I'm really interested to see what happens as well with this team with a new coaching staff that isn't either Jacques Martin or DJ Smith. This is going to be a totally new outlook, new for Sens fans. The accountability is going to be next level. I think it says a lot that a hard-nosed player like David Perron, knowing what is out there in the public eye about Travis Green having tough ass training camps, I think it says a lot that David Perron sees that and doesn't have an issue with it and wants to be a part of that. I think this team's going to be a tough team to play against. And yeah, I definitely think that they're going to make some strides this season. So I'll leave it there. I'll because I also have to keep that 2-minute threshold. I can't make rules and then, break them. I got to keep us all in sync here. So, yeah, and I think we can revisit this question later on in the summer too, and not necessarily say are they better or worse than last year, but are they? Maybe the question will change and more be along the lines of, are they actually going to compete now for a wild card spot? Will they actually do it? Will November be their downfall yet again? These are questions I think that we'll have to revisit, but as of right now, I think the outlook is good. So on that note, I think we can end our series of off-season discussion videos. We've been at it for a while here. For those watching and listening, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for being patient while, myself and our editor were away, and we're really excited. Looking at lining a few things up this summer to have some guests pop on. So looking forward to that. Thank you for tuning in. Go Sens go. See you next time.
Go Sens go, baby.
Go Sens go.